3-game stretch will define the Georgia Bulldogs season in 2025. And I'm going to be completely honest. This has been the toughest one to rank, and it's going to be. And it's not because I'm doubting Georgia. No, and it's not because I think that Georgia's taking a step back or that they're supposed to be 11-1 and dismantling opponents. It's because usually you have 2 of your 3 toughest games in a close proximity. And I just don't feel that way. So you got to pick which is the game that you expect them to have to show up for. And you've already beaten Texas and Austin, and you've already handled business against Ole Miss before, and you usually take care of Florida and Jacksonville, but you haven't consistently beaten Alabama, which is why Alabama, Kentucky, and Auburn make the cut. So let's break it all down, Bulldog fans. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson. Like the video, hit the ring notification. And of course, we talk about your Bulldogs every single day. We talk Georgia football, college football. So make sure you smash that subscribe button. Follow us on the socials, link in the description. Download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And as always, we're proudly fueled by our friends at FANDUEL. So go visit FANDUEL.com/SECU. Join in the madness today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Lay down $5 on Georgia to win the national title. Win that bet. $250 in bonus bets comes right back in your pocket. Sign up today at FANDUEL.com/SECU. So again, Georgia, I'm not doubting as a team. I'm never going to doubt Kirby Smart. I'm not going to doubt the newest additions to the roster. But I've already seen them handle business against quality teams, whether it be in Austin or Jacksonville. And yes, the game against Ole Miss last year was in Oxford, but you welcome them into Athens this year, a place where you don't lose. You haven't lost since 2019. So it's challenging for me to say those are the toughest games. Alabama, since Kirby Smart left Tuscaloosa, has been a thorn in his side. And last season was the perfect culmination of no more Nick Saban. So it was a Nick Saban problem. Absolutely. You're not beating the GOAT. Barely anybody does. And then you proceed to lose to Kalen DeBoer in year 1. Now, you fought back. You had a great comeback in the second half. And if not for Ryan Williams quite literally setting a tone of a weapons of mass destruction level incident in Tuscaloosa that called the feds down, you would have won that game and this would have been a moot point, but you didn't. And so now the question turns to, it's not a Nick problem. It's an Alabama problem for Kirby Smart. And Alabama's going to be good this year. They're going to be well-rested, and they're going to be slightly tested going into that weekend on September 27th, 6:30 kick. Yeah, they're facing off against Wisconsin, who may or may not be a good team. And Florida State, we don't really know what they are at this point, but they're still Alabama. And both these teams are going to be well-rested. Because remember, you have a bye week before you face off against each other, so it gives you time to prepare. Alabama's going to be good. If you know anything about me, you know I think that the Crimson Tide is going to win the SEC title going into 2025. But I worry about this game because, again, it's something about Sanford Stadium. It's something about the Bulldogs playing at home. They don't lose. They don't. They lost to an unranked South Carolina team in 2019, and ever since then, they have coasted to win after win after victory after victory after domination, 2 national titles, and that's kind of the standpoint. But I look at what Alabama provides. They're going to be good offensively. They're going to run the football extremely well. They're going to be able to have weapons that will easily win their one-on-one battles, and their defense is sound. Like, a lot of people are not focusing in on how good of a unit Kane Womack had last year and what pieces are coming back this season. But that does not mean for 1 second that Georgia's just going to play second fiddle or they're going to sit by and go, yeah, we had our 2-year run of being the kings of the SEC. No, we're legit. I like the addition of Noah Thomas. I like the addition of Zachariah Branch. I like that you are bringing back in Dylan Bell and Oscar Delp, and you still have Colby Young on the staff, and your running back room, I think, is pretty strong in general. I just need to see that physicality in the trenches. Like, I'm not even doubting Gunnar Stockton. There are people out there that say Gunnar Stockton was so abysmal at times that we have to turn to our next guy waiting in the wings. Do we have to go out into the transfer portal and bring in a new passer? Last I checked, he was pretty promising in most of the SEC championship in the second half. And outside of 2 or 3 risque plays in the Sugar Bowl, where he was forced to start and probably wanted to wait until this year to come on in, he wasn't the problem. There were issues with the offensive line. There were issues with the defensive line adding in pressure. And those are some areas that you want to attack in this game against Alabama that is bringing in several new offensive linemen that could be very limited in the rushing attack, that does have a new quarterback getting acclimated and hasn't started. Unlike Gunnar Stockton, who has played in multiple games before. So you can take advantage of Alabama. And it's coming to your backyard, a place where you don't lose, a place where you have proven time and time again, it's our house and we play by our house rules. And we're going to make sure that you play by our house rules. It wouldn't shock me if Georgia won this game by double digits. It wouldn't shock me, though, if Kalen DeBoer comes on in and says, hey, I'm 2-0 against Kirby. Get used to this. This is the new norm. This is the unwritten rivalry in the SEC. It's one of the best unwritten rivalries in college football. It is. Because of Georgia and Alabama for over a decade have been the standard of the SEC. And it still feels that way. Texas is coming on up. LSU will have its moment in the sun every once in a while. And then you'll throw in that 15 that could be a Missouri 1 year or a South Carolina, or maybe it is a Florida. But for the majority of college football, you know Athens and Tuscaloosa. And you know what this game means and how much of an impact it has for the college football playoff rankings, how much it has for the SEC championship rankings, what it does for giving that slight advantage to one side of this rivalry matchup when it comes to bragging rights, and better yet, when it comes to seeding in the postseason. So it's a big game because of Kirby hasn't been able to constantly beat Nick Saban or Alabama. Let me phrase that. You won one time. Outside of that, you've lost. And you've lost in neutral site fields, and you lost in Nick's backyard, and you lost now in Caitlin's backyard. So can they come to your crib and make it easier for you to guarantee you get a win? And I think they can. I think that this could be one of the biggest blowouts. I think this could be one of the best games. And I can tell you what, it's going to be one of the best environments of college football. So let's go to the second game, which again, because of it's not a 3-game stretch of actual moments, it's the Kentucky game. And I only throw the Kentucky game on here because, number one, the Alabama game is really important, but it's really the third game below it. But remember last year, 13-12 was the final score. Your offense did diddly squat. You were unable to move the football even if you tried. And there were so many moments that you felt like, okay, this is where Carson Beck is going to take control. Nah, he's just going to throw for 160 yards. This is the moment where Trevor Etienne is going to go off. No, I think he had one run of over 15 yards downfield. This is the moment where we get a wide receiver to break on through. I think he had one play of over 25 yards downfield. And it was because of Kentucky's defense, which has been the bread and butter and the backbone in Lexington for Mark Stoops' tenure, was able to show on up. And ultimately, the biggest problem was that Mark Stoops, instead of just punting it, getting the ball back to his defense, making one more stop and potentially forcing a pick six or a turnover, they might have lost this game. And it was in Lexington. And that was a moment to where, yeah, you probably are sitting there and saying, hell yeah, we're a Wildcat fan. Who cares what happened the week before when we looked awful against South Carolina? No, we're back on top. Well, this is a very, 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 very underwhelming Kentucky roster. For my money, at least. I have questions when it comes to the quarterback position, the new offensive line, several defensive players. Now, I know they're going to be decent on the defensive side because of its depth, taxes, and Mark Stoops calling plays on his side of the football. But I do wonder, what are we going to see from this team? Is there going to be life in this matchup? Because they're going to have several games already underneath their belt that could have ended in loss, including against a G5 team that some people believe is going to handle business at Kroger Field. You don't really care. You nearly lost to Kentucky last year. Like, that should never be the standard out in Athens, GA. That should never be the standard for anybody who puts on that black or red jersey. No, we beat you by 30. We beat you by 40. We show you why we're giving you mercy in these matchups. So it's an important game because if you want to set the tone in a 2-game homestand, so that way when you come on back and you have to face off against, Texas, and when you got to face off against Ole Miss, you were the reason why, hey, this is what happens when you come into our house. You're not prepared. You're not on your bells and whistles. You don't have an excellent game plan. Or you got an A+ elite can't miss game plan. You're losing, and you're losing bad. And we're going to make you our little child, and we're just going to send you to the back corner. And we got the TVMA logo up there at the very start of the fourth quarter and go, kids, it's time to go to bed. You don't need to be watching this type of television. In fact, it's going to give you nightmares if you live out in the Bluegrass State. And it's going to give you really, really bad ideas if you live out in the Peach State. So, yeah, that's another big game. But game number 3, and this one still does have a little bit of validity to me. It's the oldest rivalry in the South. It's in Jordan-Hare. It's against Auburn. And I say that because of Auburn this year has 2 rivalry games at home. This one and the Iron Bowl. And we know something. The voodoo shaman man that loves to go ahead and mess around has his dark magic seep through the soil once a season and causes an upset against a team that is feeling like they could go to the college football playoff. And sometimes it ends up being a game against a team that nobody was talking about, like last year, a 4-overtime victory against Texas A&M. And sometimes it leads to the greatest moment in college football history, which is the kick six. And I don't care if you're an Alabama fan watching this video, you know as well as I do, the aliens come on down and they say, hey, what's this college football thing? What's the atmosphere like on a game day? You show them that play and you listen to Rob Bramblett's call and go, yep, that's what makes college football special. Well, what if Alabama is so dominant that they just march on in there and win that game? Okay, well, the Voodoo Shaman man's got to go ahead and put his magic somewhere. It's this game. And I think that there is a reason to believe that Auburn could at least make this interesting. I doubt Hugh Freeze. I don't doubt Auburn. That's where I'm at when it comes to this upcoming season. You tell me that this roster ends up going 10-2, and I don't know, Buster Faulkner's the head coach. I'd buy it. John Summerall's the head coach. I'd probably buy it. But it's the fact of who is the one leading the charge that I can't see having any more stock than what people have given him in the past. That's where you lose me. And so Georgia, who is going to wonder, can they win their one-on-one battles in the trenches against Keldrick Falk and against this linebacking core? Can they set up a consistent ground game and get to the second level where they're taking advantages of a young secondary? Can your wide receivers, Noah Thomas, Dylan Bell, Oscar Delp, you throw in Zachariah Branch, could they end up having big-time plays? Can Colby Young come on strong and be that veteran in the locker room? And can your defensive line add that same validity? Can this be a game where like Ella Medusi, who comes on in from Army, wins every single battle against the offensive tackle and basically eliminates the running game, forcing Jackson Arnold to have to be the identity of this offense, forcing the wide receivers to have to step on up in coverage against Everett and coverage against Bolden, and you just force turnover after turnover, and eventually we see Deuce Vaughn come in, and it might be the end of the Jackson Arnold era. Like, that's what we want to see in this matchup if you're a Georgia fan. But again, rivalry games, especially after playing Alabama and then having the lull that there's going to be Kentucky, could lead to a trap. And this is one of them. Now, I do think that the Texas game is more important. And honestly, I do think that the Florida game is more important. But you got to get past Alabama because Nick Saban is no longer walking up and down the sidelines, whether it be in Bryant-Denny or in Sanford Stadium. So that game is so poignant. And I think that the Auburn game does carry a little bit of weight, just because of what it is in terms of the impact of the Southeastern region. I mean, a lot of people in Alabama call Auburn West Georgia. So we go ahead and say, listen, this is a matchup that we want to talk about. You give me those 3 games, you win those 3 games, it affords you a loss to Texas. It affords you a loss to Florida. It affords you a loss to Georgia Tech even. That's not going to matter because of that won't factor into you going to the SEC championship game. But you get to kind of coast. You feel pretty confident about where you stand. And again, it's Georgia. Death, taxes, college football playoff appearance on the horizon. I think that we can expect the exact same thing in 2025. But let me know in the comment section down below, which game do you look forward to? Which 3-game stretch, so it has to be 3 in a row, was I right or wrong about? Like, review, hit subscribe. Make sure you're following us on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. And check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, folks, I am Cole Thompson. Dog Nation, you're going to go to the college football playoff. But can you first just finally end this streak against Alabama in the regular season? Bye.